They told you time is money. But what if that's the biggest lie you've ever believed? Because the truth is, most people aren't spending their time. They're selling it. To jobs they hate, to routines that drain them, to goals they didn't even choose. And the worst part? They don't even realize it. They call it success. They call it being driven. But deep down they feel it. That invisible pressure. The anxiety that never shuts off. The feeling that life is slipping away while they keep checking boxes. What if the problem isn't that you don't have enough time, but that you've never been taught how to own it? This video is not about hacks, habits, or morning routines. It's about something deeper. It's about unlearning the noise. And finally waking up to the one thing they never taught you in school. How to feel alive inside your own schedule. So before you scroll away, ask yourself, are you really living? Or just performing the role of someone who is? Have you ever had one of those moments where you stop mid-scroll, look up, and realize an hour just vanished? No alarm rang, no big event happened, yet the clock jumped. It's like you blinked, and your time slipped through your fingers. That right there, that's the invisible clock. The one that doesn't tick or chime, but devours entire portions of your life while you chase productivity, approval, or just the next dopamine hit. We were taught to measure time by deadlines and paychecks, not by presence. And that is the trap. You don't notice we're losing life because everything around you tells you you're being efficient. People wake up tired, run all day, fall asleep numb, and call that living. But deep down, there's that voice. That faint whisper asking, is this really it? And most silence it with caffeine or another podcast on hustle mindset. Because facing the silence means admitting you've been spending your most valuable currency, your time, on things that don't to pay you back in peace. It's not just time lost. It's you. Your attention. Your joy. Your memories. Every second spent disconnected chips away at the very thing that makes you feel alive, your presence. Here's something they won to teach you in school. Life doesn't announce its ending. You won't get a final countdown. Most people only realize they were wasting time when something shakes them. Illness, heartbreak, or regret. And by then, the time's already gone. Ask anyone who's been through a close call. They'll tell you the same thing. It all felt so fast. That's because it was. When your days are filled with tasks but not meaning, with deadlines but not direction, you become a ghost moving through routines instead of living inside moments. Think about it. How many birthdays have you half celebrated while thinking about work? How many sunsets did you miss because your screen was brighter? This isn't about guilt. It's about awareness. The truth is, we're not just losing time. We're trading it without checking the value. The cost of your attention isn't just another notification. It's the slow erosion of your sense of purpose. And when that goes, so does the meaning behind why you even get out of bed in the morning. There's a difference between being busy and being alive. One numbs you, the other wakes you up. And most people live in a fog of to-do lists, convinced that moving faster means living better. But if speed was the answer, why does anxiety feel heavier than ever? Why does your memory feel scattered, like your brain's running on 20 tabs that never fully load? Dopamine isn't the villain here, but the way we chase it is. Every short burst of excitement leaves behind a long trail of emptiness if there is no deeper presence guiding your choices. Here's a simple truth we rarely admit. Productivity without direction is just disguised survival. You get things done, sure. But what's being built? A life? Or just a list of completed tasks? And if survival is your baseline, how will you ever feel like you're living? This isn't just about work or time management. It is about reclaiming attention as your greatest asset. Because you can always earn more money, but you can never get back the exact minute you're in right now. Try this. At least once a day, stop everything. No music. No scrolling. Just 5 minutes of silence. Sit somewhere you wouldn't normally sit. Breathe. Let your thoughts be awkward. Let your presence catch up to your body. That one moment might feel strange at first, but it's where life begins to reappear. Your memory starts to form again. You realize, oh, I'm here. And being here is the one thing you'll wish you did more, once time starts slipping faster than you can chase it. Because here's the thing, time isn't just ticking forward. It's moving away from you, unless you choose to meet it. And the longer you wait to pay attention, the harder it gets to find your way back to yourself. So before we talk about what's stealing your time, you have to first see that it's already missing. There's something quietly terrifying happening to your brain. And no one's really sounding the alarm. Not your boss. Not your school. Not even most therapists will say it so plainly. But I will. You're being trained, day after day, to lose touch with the present moment. You're not choosing to be distracted. You're being neurologically rewired to tolerate noise instead of silence. Your attention, the very fabric of your life, is being torn into tiny pieces by things that promise entertainment, but deliver emptiness. It's subtle, but it's surgical. You feel it every time you open an app without knowing why. Every time you check a message and forget it 5 minutes later. That fog? It's not just fatigue. It's the consequence of 1,000 tiny withdrawals from your sense of self. And the scariest part? Most people live in this haze and call it normal. You know that rush you feel when someone likes your photo or when a new video autoplays? That's dopamine. It's not inherently bad. Your brain needs it. It helps you find motivation, pleasure, direction. But when dopamine becomes tied to randomness and rapid stimulation, it stops being a compass and becomes a leash. Suddenly, you're not moving toward meaning. You're chasing the next shiny thing. And when it ends, what are you left with? A kind of low-grade anxiety that's hard to name. You're overstimulated but undernourished. Surrounded by noise, but starving for depth. That's not just a mood issue. That's a spiritual crisis. And the cost? It's not just your productivity. It's your presence. And presence is where all real healing begins. It's why you find yourself saying things like, I don't even remember what I did today. Because your memory wasn't built for fragmentation. It was built for immersion. The brain encodes meaning through depth, not speed. But distraction breaks time into pieces too small to remember. A reel here, a text there, a quick scroll in the bathroom. You're not being lazy. You're being pulled apart by systems that monetize your focus. You didn't fail to use your time well. Your time was harvested. That feeling of disconnection you carry, it's not a flaw, it's feedback. Your brain is trying to say, this isn't working. I can't live like this. And until you stop treating that signal as weakness, you'll keep pushing forward in a direction that leads nowhere. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're sitting at a cafe. A warm breeze, a quiet street. You look up from your phone and lock eyes with someone walking by. For a split second, you feel something. Presence, maybe even connection. But then a buzz. Your hand moves before you think. You're gone. Back in the feed. That's what's dying. Not just your focus, but your ability to feel the world around you. The beauty, the subtlety, the life in between the big moments. It's being edited out of your existence, replaced by content. And the more you normalize this, the harder it gets to notice what you're missing. You stop craving real experience because your brain forgets how to hold it. You don't need a digital detox in the mountains. You need tiny moments of rebellion in your everyday life. Set your phone to grayscale for a day. Watch how quickly it becomes boring. That's dopamine withdrawal. Good. That's your nervous system saying, I want something real. Go for a walk and leave your phone. Just 5 minutes. No playlist, no podcasts. Just wind and footstep and thought. Notice the discomfort. That's the threshold. Cross it. On the other side is a version of you that remembers how to be human without constant stimulation. Because self-awareness lives in silence, not speed. See, most people think they're burned out from working too much, but often they're burned out from never truly stopping. Even rest has become performative. I'll relax while watching 5 shows and checking TikTok and texting. That's not rest. That's stimulation overload dressed up as a break. Real rest feels strange at first, almost scary, because it brings you face to face with your own inner life, with your doubts, longings, and questions about the meaning of your days. But that's where transformation begins, not in escape, but in return, in allowing yourself to be still long enough to hear what you've been silencing. Try this. Before bed, turn off all screens 30 minutes early, not because it's a productivity hack, but because it's a reunion. You with you. Sit on the floor, drink tea, stare at a candle if you want. Let your mind slow down enough for your presence to catch up to your body. Those moments, they're not filler. They're where the real you emerges. And once you start to recognize that version of yourself, everything changes. You begin to make choices from awareness, not reaction. And that kind of clarity, that's more valuable than any to-do list you'll ever finish. So the next time you feel that impulse to open your phone for no reason, pause. Don't shame yourself. Just notice. That space between impulse and action. That's where your freedom lives. And if you can find that space once, you can find it again. And maybe, just maybe, the next time your brain searches for dopamine, you'll offer it something deeper instead. You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Time is money. Sounds smart, right? Efficient, practical. But let's pause for a second. Who told you that? Who benefits when you believe that every moment needs to be monetized? Because if time equals money, then every second you spend not producing becomes a debt. And that's exactly how modern society wants you to feel. Guilty for resting, anxious when you're not grinding, worthless if you're not maximizing. This isn't just a mindset, it's a cultural virus. One that teaches you to value urgency over meaning, quantity over quality, and output over presence. But what if that entire framework is a trap? Slow down for a moment and ask yourself, is your value truly measured by how much you can do in a day? Or by how deeply you can live in one? We're not designed to be machines, yet most people live like human spreadsheets, tracking hours, optimizing routines, treating life like a performance review. And the irony? The more you chase productivity, the more life becomes a blur. You're busy, but disconnected, moving, but empty. The pressure to squeeze value out of every second turns the meaning of your existence into a math problem. But you were never meant to be solved. You were meant to be felt. Philosophers like Epicurus and Lao Tzu warned us centuries ago. The good life isn't too fast, it is present. And it's not about luxury. It's about clarity. The kind that emerges when you're not rushing to the next thing. Think about it. Your best memories weren't made in a hurry. They came from depth, long conversations, slow meals, moments where time didn't matter. And yet we treat slowness like failure. Like if we're not exhausted, we must not be trying hard enough. That mindset doesn't build success. It builds burnout. There's a question no one wants to answer. What am I really running from? Here's a hard truth. Chasing productivity without purpose creates a life that looks full on the outside, but feels hollow within. You meet deadlines, hit milestones, check boxes, but something's missing. And that missing piece, it's presence. It's the ability to sit with yourself without needing distraction. It's waking up and not immediately reaching for your phone. It's allowing a moment to stretch, breathe, expand, without needing to monetize it. But that takes practice and courage. Because in a world that worships speed, choosing slowness feels like rebellion. Want to start reclaiming that space? Begin by doing one task slowly, on purpose. Wash the dishes without music. Fold clothes with care. Walk without a destination. These aren't chores. They're invitations. Opportunities to feel life again. The weight of the water. The warmth of the sun. The breath you didn't realize you'd been holding. These small moments don't make headlines, but they create a foundation of peace. And when dopamine isn't running the show, you start noticing things. Details. Emotions. Yourself. That's not wasted time. That's a homecoming. In Japanese culture, there's a concept called ma, the space between things. It's the silence in music, the pause in conversation, the breath before action. Western culture erases this space, fills it, monetizes it. But without space, there's no rhythm, no depth. You're left with noise. So if you constantly feel overwhelmed, scattered, like you're losing track of who you are, maybe what you're missing isn't motivation. Maybe it's margin. Maybe you've never been lazy, just buried under the lie that rest equals waste. And this isn't just philosophy, it's neuroscience. Your brain requires slowness to consolidate memory, regulate emotion, and create meaning. When you're rushing, your nervous system enters a survival state. Fight or flight. Not peace, not connection. That SY slowing down feels so uncomfortable. It as a withdrawal from the high-speed numbness we bet we normalized. But over time, your system recalibrates. You start to crave depth over speed, intention over efficiency. And that craving? That's your body remembering what it means to be alive. So ask yourself, if you stopped measuring your worth by how much you produce, what would be left? Who would you be without the grind? If the idea of slowing down scares you, pay attention. That fear might be the very thing trying to protect you from discovering the life you've been too busy to notice. You wake up early, not because you want to, but because you have to. Your phone is already buzzing, reminding you of everything you haven't done yet. You drag yourself through the routine: coffee, commute, meetings. Hours pass, and your energy slowly evaporates. But there's no time to notice that, because you've got bills, goals, expectations, so you keep pushing. You postpone rest, you swallow your stress, and you convince yourself that this exhaustion is temporary, that one day, when the money's right, the time will finally be yours. But here's the trap. You keep trading life for survival, and calling that normal. Look around. How many people do you know who work every day just to pay for the things they too tired to enjoy? Fancy apartments they never really sit in, subscriptions they forget to cancel, clothes they wear once, vacations they plan but postpone. This isn't a personal failure, it's a system failure. One that convinces you your worth is directly tied to how much you produce, how much you earn, how much you own. But none of it gives you presence. None of it gives you back the time you traded to get it. And one day, you'll look back and realize you were building a future you never got to live. It's not just about money. It's about the cost of chasing it. How many weekends have you sacrificed for deadlines? How many family dinners have you skipped for just one more task? How many birthdays, anniversaries, quiet nights, and slow mornings have slipped through your fingers because productivity came first? And what did it bring you? Temporary dopamine. Maybe some applause, but no meaning, no deep-rooted joy, no sustained sense of peace. This kind of pace isn't a badge of honor. It's a warning sign. And the sooner you hear it, the sooner you can shift direction. There's a quiet grief that lives in those who feel stuck in the grind. You can hear it in their voice when they say, "I'm just so tired." It's not just physical fatigue. It's emotional depletion. The exhaustion of constantly giving yourself away for things that don't give back. And here's what no one tells you. There's a difference between doing something because you love it and doing it because you've forgotten who you are without it. Many people work not just for money, but for identity, for a sense of control, for a way to matter. But when your entire sense of self is wrapped around your job, what happens when you finally stop? Maybe it's time to rethink what wealth means. Real wealth isn't just financial. It's emotional bandwidth. It's free evenings. It's knowing you can breathe without feeling guilty. It is being able to spend a whole afternoon doing nothing and knowing that was everything. That's not laziness. That's alignment. But you only get there when you start questioning the default. Ask yourself, are you buying a lifestyle or are you buying disconnection? Is your work building the life you want, or is it numbing the life you had? These questions aren't easy, but they're necessary. Try this. Write down your ideal day. Not your ideal vacation, your ideal Tuesday. How would you wake up? What would you eat? Who would you spend time with? What kind of work would you do, if any? Then compare that to your actual Tuesday. Where are the gaps? That space in between? That's where your purpose lives. That's where small changes begin. Maybe it's reclaiming 30 minutes in the morning. Maybe it's saying no to that extra meeting. Maybe it's just turning off your phone during dinner. These shifts are small, but they're revolutionary because they remind your brain and your soul that your time belongs to you. We live in a culture that glorifies the grind and shames stillness. That equates busy with important and rest with weakness. But being constantly occupied is not a sign of success. It's often a sign of fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of facing the silence. But here's the truth. Nothing grows in noise. You need space, margin, room to feel, to think, to simply be. And that kind of space doesn't show up on your calendar. You have to carve it out. You have to protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. And maybe, just maybe, if you stop chasing a life that looks good on paper, you'll begin living one that feels right in your body. But for that to happen, something deeper needs to be questioned. Something everyone feels, but no one dares to say out loud. It's strange, isn't it? How silence, something so simple, so natural, can feel so unbearable. Most people can't sit in a quiet room without reaching for something. A phone, a playlist, a screen. We've been taught that silence equals emptiness, that doing nothing is a waste. But what if that's exactly where life begins to whisper back? What if the moments we avoid the most are the ones holding the map back to ourselves? There's a kind of wisdom that only shows up when everything else shuts down. And in a world drowning in noise, silence is not just absence, it's resistance. Think about it. The last time you had a breakthrough, a moment of clarity, it probably didn't happen during a Zoom meeting or while checking your inbox. It came in the stillness, in the pause, in that fleeting second between the chaos. That's not coincidence. That's your attention finally coming home. And yet, we run from these spaces, fill every blank with noise. Because when the world gets quiet, our thoughts get loud. The questions surface, the regrets, the dreams we've buried under years of distraction. But avoiding that isn't peace. It's paralysis. You're not escaping discomfort. You're delaying the meaning. There's a reason monks, philosophers, and creatives across history all praise solitude. It's not just for aesthetics. It's for clarity, for truth, for depth. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. But only if you're brave enough to listen. When you sit in that space, uncomfortable as it may be, you begin to hear the things you've been silencing. The parts of you that don't scream, but ache. And in that ache, there's honesty. You realize how long you've been running, how much of your time has been spent avoiding rather than living. And slowly, the tension starts to dissolve. Try it. One evening. Turn everything off. No background noise, no scrolling. Just sit. Maybe with a candle. Maybe near a window. Let your breath guide you. Let your thoughts come and go without judgment. You might fidget. That's okay. You might feel restless. That's part of the detox. What matters is that you stay. Because in that stillness, your nervous system begins to recalibrate. Your dopamine stops chasing. Your body remembers presence. And your mind? It begins to quiet. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped forcing everything else. And here's the magic. After enough time, you'll start to crave that space. It won't feel boring. It'll feel like breathing, like returning to a room that's been waiting for you. You'll notice your reactions soften. Your need to be constantly entertained will lessen. You'll walk slower, speak with more intention. You'll remember what real life feels like, not the fast, filtered version, but the quiet, authentic one. This isn't about quitting the world. It's about returning to it with a new lens, with presence, with power, with peace that isn't performative, but rooted in real purpose. Some people wait until they're burnt out to discover this. They crash, they retreat. They realize that all the noise wasn't protecting them, it was suffocating them. But you don't need a breakdown to find stillness. You just need curiosity, a willingness to ask, what if I've had it backwards this whole time? What if productivity isn't the peak of existence? What if the best parts of being human live in the things we can't measure? Laughter, tears, wonder, stillness. These moments don't look impressive, but they're the ones we remember on our deathbeds. They're the ones that shape our memory. Your presence is the most valuable currency you'll ever own. More than dollars, more than followers, more than likes. Because it's the only thing that can't be bought, borrowed, or saved. You either give it or you lose it. And in a culture that demands you divide yourself into notifications, expectations, and schedules, the choice to be fully here is revolutionary. It means reclaiming your time, not by doing more, but by being more. By learning to sit with the silence long enough for it to speak. And when it does, you'll realize it never left you. You just forgot how to hear it. So before you rush into the next task, before you fill the next pause, wait. Just for a moment. Notice the breath, the quiet, the space between thoughts. That space is where everything you've been looking for already lives. So now that you've heard all this, what are you going to do with your time? Will you keep spending your days the same way? Scrolling through moments that never touch your soul? Chasing productivity like it's a trophy, while your peace collects dust in a forgotten corner of your life? Or will you pause, even for a second, and ask, what kind of life am I really building? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. No one's coming to give your time back. No app, no job, no person. If you don't claim your life, someone else will. And it starts small. One boundary, one slow morning, one choice not to check your phone the moment you open your eyes. That's how the shift begins. So tell me, what's the first thing you need to change? Leave it in the comments. Make it real. Make it visible. And while you're here, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Because this is just the beginning of everything they never taught you about time, presence, and freedom.